Okay, 1.1F, I think this is, I hope our last section, our last video in this section. We may have to split this one, but it concerns absolute value. Whenever I ask my students what do they know about absolute value, they say it makes everything positive. And that's true, but that's not exactly what it is, even though that's a true statement. What absolute value does is it measures how far are you away from zero. So the symbol for absolute value are these two straight lines, and then you're going to see something or somebody inside, and they're asking, how far am I away from home? How far am I away from zero? Okay, so let's take a look at this. Again, absolute value means the distance from zero. So there's zero on our number line. You can go to the left or you can go to the right, but it doesn't matter with distance. Distance doesn't care which direction you've gone in. It just wants to know how far you've gone. Okay, so like I said, the straight up and down lines indicate absolute value. So if we are asking something like the next problem here, absolute value of 5, that's saying how far away from zero is 5. So we go, okay, well here's 5. How many units is that away from zero? Well, it's 5 units away. So the answer, the absolute value of 5, how far away is that from zero? It is 5 units away. And how far is -5 away from zero? So here's our little -5 over here on the left. Same distance though, it's just to the left, but absolute value doesn't care if it's left or right. It's just how far do I have to go. But it's still 5 units, so the absolute value of a -5 is also 5. Okay, next couple problems. What's the absolute value of a -3.297? If you put that on the graph, how far away from zero would that be? Well, it would be 3.297 units. Pretty easy. How far is 5/8 away from zero? What's the absolute value of 5/8? 5/8. What's the absolute value of zero? How far is zero away from zero? Well, it's 0 units away. So that looks pretty easy so far, right? Okay, now what we're going to see coming up though is we're not going to have numbers inside the absolute value. We're going to see x's, and we're going to have numbers over here, and in the first example it's going to be 5. So let's take a look at what that might mean. So recall that we just decided that the absolute value of 5 is 5, and the absolute value of a -5 is 5. So if we see the absolute value of x is equal to 5, that's saying, what could you put in? Let me just do something for a second. What could you put into that absolute value and make that work? Well, I can think of two numbers that could go in there. You could put a +5, as we saw. Oops, I didn't want to do that. As we saw up here, you could have a +5. That would work. You could have a -5 in there. That would work. So how many solutions does that have? Let's put that x back in there. It has 2 solutions. What are they? Well, solutions are what you can put in for x to make that true. So x could be a -5, or x could equal a +5. So another way to look at this, when you see absolute value of x is equal to 7, it's like asking, what numbers are 5 units from zero? Well, like I said, you could go to the left 5 units and you would end up at a +5, or if you wanted to, I think I just said left, we went to the right first, you could go to the left 5 units and you would end up at a -5. So that's why absolute value of x equals 5. To go from there, it has 2 solutions. X equals a -5, that works, or x equals a +5. Okay, let's see if we can squeeze a little bit more in here. So what we just found is when you have absolute value equals a positive number, it's always going to have 2 solutions. Absolute value equals 7. The 2 solutions, the 2 things you could put in for x are 7 and -7. Okay, we're going to take a look at these where you have absolute value equals 0 and absolute value equals a negative number. Okay, let's take a look at this first one. Absolute value of x equals 0. So I'm going to just erase that x and say, what could I put in there that would make this statement true? Well, I can only think of one thing, and that is 0. So let's go back to what we had there. We had absolute value of x equals 0. The solution then is just x equals 0. It has only one solution. Okay. Next one. Oh, this is fun. You're going to say thank you, teacher, when you see a problem like this on the test. If you have absolute value is equal to, say, a -5, how many solutions does that have? And I'm going to do a little bit of erasing again. What could I possibly put in this absolute value so that I would get -5? Well, distance is never a negative number. So there is no -5 units away from 0. So there's nothing that we could put here. So there are no solutions when you have a negative number. Okay, real quickly, let's see what we can do here. What's your answer here? First, well, I guess the question is, first of all, in the first problem, how many solutions are there? How many solutions? Well, it is absolute value equals a negative number. Thank you, teacher. No solutions, and that's all we have to say because there aren't any to list. Next one, absolute value is equal to 15. That's a positive number, so how many solutions? 2 solutions. And what are they? They are x equals the negative of that number or x equals the positive of that number. And then finally in the last one, x equals 0, absolute value of x equals 0. How many solutions? Just one solution, and the only solution that's going to work there is x equals 0. Okay, I think I better stop here, and we will continue with absolute value in the next video.